Well, thanks again for being here for the Powerful Narratives Work or PNW Fellowship Program info session. I am Whitney Johnson here from Communities of Opportunities Learning Community, as is my colleague Catherine. And we are also lucky to have Belinda here from Resource Media, who will introduce herself shortly. What's on the agenda for today? We've already done some brief introductions. So we will jump into an overview, background, and some context on the fellowship, get into the fellowship structure for this year, and a little bit more on the application criteria, and then jump right into the Q&A. Again, this is being recorded. We will stop recording during the Q&A session, but we will take notes and we'll share out the questions and the answers from today's conversation on the COO website. So a little bit of background here for those who may be unfamiliar with COO. Communities of Opportunity focuses on strengthening partnerships, sharing power, exchanging knowledge, and growing capacity because we know that this is all crucial to shaping anti-racist policies, systems, and structures. Central to this is investing in community power and the means for communities most impacted by racism and oppressive systems to generate change and long-term impact. Those closest to the issues are also closest to the solutions. We also know that narrative power is a critical aspect of community power building and absolutely necessary to sustain and strengthen the both policy systems changes that we're looking to support, as well as culture change and environmental or material changes that increase well-being. As part of this, we believe in investing in the infrastructure and capacity that is important for sustaining narrative power building and change work. And that's really where this fellowship opportunity comes from. That being said, we know that narrative change work and narrative power building work is long-term work. It really requires multi-year investments, meaning like 15 to 20-year investments, and maybe at a minimum, as well as the corresponding support to infrastructure and capacity building for narrative change and narrative power. This is an offering towards that infrastructure and capacity building to create a space to support individuals in King County, to build a collaborative learning space that strengthens their knowledge, skills, connections, and the tools that exist that make up this infrastructure and capacity necessary to support those other long-term narrative change investments. With this, we're also trying to bring together individuals in King County who are already at work to move forward a more just regional economy, one that is centered on dignity, solidarity, and well-being for people on the planet. So moving from an extractive economy to a generative one. And so it's our intent to support a diverse group of folks who are working on different pieces of that issue together to develop a shared narrative and corresponding narrative strategy. So what is this opportunity? Here's the basic structure. This is a 6-month program beginning with an in-person day-long gathering on March 27th at the Highline Heritage Museum here in King County, including 4 90-minute virtual learning sessions in April, May, June, and July, and then closing with an in-person day-long gathering the week of August 17th. Also offered as part of this is access to office hours or practice sessions with the facilitators from Resource Media. This is supposed to be an intensive, guided peer learning space for individuals living or working in King County who are actively leading efforts to build a regional solidarity economy. We can get into definitions during Q&A as well, but important definitions for this fellowship program are also on our website. This is also meant to be a facilitated space for the development of a shared narrative again that aligns with the principles of a just transition and towards the creation of a regional solidarity economy. As part of this, this year we're also partnering with local journalism and media platforms as a way to help share out the messages connected to this shared narrative. We anticipate having a small cohort this year, between 5 and 8 fellows, um, depending on sort of the applicant pool. And relatedly, participants will receive stipends for their participation, depending on the budget and the number of folks in the cohort. But about 5,000 will be there to support participation. And we are offering everyone in the cohort the opportunity to attend a few different professional development opportunities or networking opportunities, including this year's ComNet conference, which is September 30th through October 3rd. So who is this really for? Again, folks who are strongly familiar with and working on the creation of a regional solidarity economy. Folks who are really committed to strengthening the narrative power building ecosystem in our region, including like building that collaborative connection with peers, with resource media, with COO, in addition to knowledge and skill sharing, and even post fellowship towards long-term infrastructure development. This is ideal for folks who are committed to strengthening their own knowledge, skills, and connections, and also bringing that back to the groups, organizations, networks that they are rooted in. Critical is the ability to commit to full participation in the fellowship and all workshop sessions. Again, the first dates, the date of the day-long session in March has been shared. The others, we will sort of try to schedule with folks, but it's at least once a month for 90 minutes. So we're asking for that commitment, and then in August to another day-long session. Again, connected to currently working for economic justice and a regional solidarity economy, just showing that you work in a mission-based organization or on a project relevant to that here in King County. We don't need to get into this, but just to clarify what we're talking about when we talk about narrative and narrative power and narrative change work, so as narrative infrastructure. Some, I think, helpful definitions. When we think about, common narratives related to the economy right now, I think one example that's sort of useful to think about how narrative is working right now is a narrative connected to a deep narrative or a meta narrative that the machines are taking our jobs, right? The machines are inevitable, right? AI is inevitable. That is a predominant narrative right now related to our economy. Whether or not, all the stories related to AI or definitions about even what AI is are all the same or are sort of true and correct. And I think that's also a good example of how narratives are instrumental in sort of creating the future, right? If everyone believes the narrative that AI is inevitable, AI becomes inevitable. Again, what to expect: 2-day-long intensive sessions at launch and program close. This will be a highly participatory and collaborative session. There'll be office hours available, a curriculum that explores and strengthens narrative change and power building strategies towards the development of a shared narrative amongst the cohort. Again, a peer learning space, a journalism media partnership. We will also ask for your co-creation of that space, given that it's a peer learning space, and your evaluative feedback to us, so we can always be working to improve both the learning experience this year and future investments. What this is not, folks who are maybe looking for an introduction to concepts or ideas related to a solidarity economy or just transition, or sort of intro level trainings around storytelling or narrative or journalism or communications. That's not really the right fit for what this opportunity is really aimed at or will support. While there is a supportive um, stipend for participation, this is not meant to be your operational or organizational grant support. And again, we're hoping to get folks from, different organizations, different communities, different scopes of work or things that they're working on related to a more just economy. And so this is not aimed at one group or organization to participate, even though it is a small cohort this year. Um, and I think with that, oh, um, the application. So just very quickly, I'm not going to read all of the text here. Um, but the application that we created was really meant to be not a huge lift, but some critical questions to really get at, who are you? What is your experience with narrative, the solidarity economy? How are you sort of approaching narrative change work? And how would this fellowship learning experience support you in that, contribute to a peer learning environment and support like further narrative change and narrative power building beyond the fellowship itself. So these are really I think, some central questions we're trying to get at through the application. But my advice is still to just provide enough detail for clarity and understanding. But you don't have to um, write a whole treatise on or like a large biography. You are welcome to add links or references if you think helpful, but it's not necessary. And back to full participation. If you really don't think that you can fully participate this year or really engage, um, that's okay. But it's central to this experience. And there may be something else in the COO network around capacity building supports that we're doing to build narrative power and for narrative change work that may be a better fit for you. So we encourage you just to reach out before putting in the work of applying to maybe talk more about what that could look like. Now, we can go to questions. I'm going to stop screen sharing, stop recording, and also welcome or invite Belinda to briefly introduce herself.
Thanks, Whitney. Um, I'm Belinda Griswold. I use she, her. I live on Snohomish land on South Whidbey Island, and I'm a senior program director at Resource Media. We are a creative change agency that works to shift narrative and communications spaces throughout social change sectors across the country. We are big fans of COO, and my beloved colleague Cyan Wu and I are the co-teachers of the fellowship. Taught it last year, teaching it again this year, and super duper excited for the innovations that have come with this year's fellowship, with working with community journalism outlets and working on a shared narrative. And my personal background is in narrative change and campaign work, also in public opinion research, cognitive research, and in training spokespeople from all over the country on lots of different organizations and campaigns. So this is like our dream project. We love this project so much, and it's always just makes me happy to share and chat with folks about it. Happy to be here.